Hi, my name is Justin Glover, and you are listening to episode number 102 of the Results 513 show. The show where high-performing entrepreneurs go to step into their power and take their life and business to new levels. Our next guest was born in Israel in 1976. He was always doodling, but never considered a career in art. Rather, he thought that he would grow up and make cartoons after, of course, being an astronaut or a veterinarian. His father had a passion for electric engineering and science fiction, and thus his childhood was filled with science fiction novels. Growing up, he was the only 7-year-old on the block with his own soldering iron. On his 9th birthday, his parents relocated the entire family to the USA. He's an artist, and at the time of this recording, when I chatted with him, he had created a brand new piece of art every day for 1,367 days in a row without missing a day. When it comes to consistency, this guy knows the secret. Ladies and gentlemen, turn your distractions down and your earballs up, because today we are talking with the one and only Ori Bengal. By the way, if you have not done so yet, do yourself a favor, run over to results513.com/show and download the free gift that we have put together for you. It's called the 15 must-have tools to be insanely productive in your business. It will jumpstart your productivity almost instantly. If you're a high performer, you're going to love this, so go check it out. Finally, if you want a raw behind-the-scenes look at the Results 513 show, you can follow me on Snapchat. My username there is Justin Lee Glover. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Before we start the show, we're going to take 18 seconds to have a quick gratitude dance party. So as the music plays, think of one thing you're grateful for right now. 3, 2, 1. Let's create something amazing today, shall we? All right, welcome back, everybody. I am here with my good friend, Mr. Ori Bengal. Ori, how you doing, man? Where you at? What do you see? Paint us a picture.
Paint you a picture, huh? I mean, that could take a look.
I'm starting it off with a pun because you're the pun master, dude.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Northern California. I have the usual view, which is that there is a couple of computer screens in front of me and a big old mess on my desk. And that was the other thing.
Right on. So are you standing up, sitting down? What's the weather?
I'm sitting down, but I am waiting for... Oh, funny enough, this product was not named after me, but it seems like it. If you go to oristand.co, not .com, it's a cardboard stand-up desk for $25.
Oh, yeah, I saw you post this on Facebook the other day.
Yeah, so I ordered one. I am waiting for it, and at that point, I will be standing up. Absolutely. I've been taking my fitness. I've been getting kind of back into it, and that's one of the things that requires consistency, and standing up all day is, I think, definitely a good part of it. I spend a lot of time sitting down, but that's, something that can be easily remedied.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. I heard Einstein work standing up like 3 or 4 years ago, and so I went online and found this IKEA furniture hack and bought some like shelves and stuff from IKEA that followed this guy's instructions. So now I have this hack together. It's pretty nice though. It's a stand-up desk. So been standing up ever since, and I love it, man.
Well, you're a stand-up kind of guy.
I am. So I'm going to ask you for like the best pun of this, at the end of this thing. I want you to like be thinking, just planting that seed, because I want one like a takeaway from the episode, like the pun from it. Mm. So you said you're in Northern California, is that right?
Yeah, at the moment I'm in an area called Brentwood, not the one that O.J. Simpson made famous by killing people, but like the actual city of Brentwood. It's about an hour from the Bay Area, but I have a commercial real estate broker right now looking for a warehouse for me to get in Oakland, so I can make a ginormous mess. It turns out that most landlords, most people that rent you a room or an apartment don't really want you working with like welding equipment and flamethrowers and all this other stuff that could set the place on fire. So
That's interesting. I don't know. I don't see why not. But
yeah.
So, are you originally from there? I actually have no idea where you're originally from. When I met you, you were couch surfing, Ori.
Exactly. I'm from everywhere. I'm from the planet. I am originally from Israel. I came to the United States on my 9th birthday, which is exactly 30 years, 1 month, and 4 days ago. So, having a giant move happen on your birthday makes it pretty easy to track. Came to the States on my 9th birthday. I learned English by watching cartoons, which might explain a lot. And we lived in South Florida I lived there for about 20 years. Kind of got fed up with South Florida. I just didn't really connect with it. I mean, the weather was sunny and that was cool, but yeah, the thing was that I was also an entrepreneur, which for me just translates into not having to use an alarm clock, waking up when I want to.
So, did you come from an entrepreneur background? Like, were your folks entrepreneurs?
My dad had restaurants and such, and so actually we moved here on a business visa, meaning we had to be self-employed. And so, yeah, I mean, that seemed like the thing. Although I'm the middle child, my little brother is not really a good entrepreneur. He is more of an employee, and my older brother is he's got no interest in being an entrepreneur whatsoever. He's like a CFO of major companies and such. So. Yeah, I don't know, but I take the most after my dad out of any of us, and so yeah, I was kind of entrepreneurial, which kind of meant to me that if there was great weather outside and I wanted to go kayaking or take a little road trip or something, I could. I didn't have to look at the calendar and see what day it was and all that kind of stuff. And it got a little frustrating that most of my friends couldn't do that, and so. When my lease was going to expire, I was at the time a photographer and a designer, and I had a high rise on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, and my lease was going to expire. I was like, well, I don't feel like renewing here, and I don't know if I feel like getting another high rise, or, do I move at 29, like moving back in with my folks didn't sound all that great. So, a friend suggested I move to LA. My photography would be extremely welcome over there, and I could crash at my buddy Richard's place I could crash on his couch for a month, and that little sentence, I was like, wait a minute, and I'll call you back. I called my buddy back 2 hours later. I'm like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Rather than crashing on Richard's couch in LA, I'm going to crash on everyone's couches everywhere, and kind of then figure out where I want to renew my lease at. And I had no clue, but that the process was going to take me about 6 years. And that was the birth of couch surfing Ori. I got to discover a hell of a lot more than just where to renew my lease, which ended up being Austin. I was there for another 2.5 years. After I settled.
Very cool. So I want to dig in a little bit before couch surfing, Ori. What were you like growing up as a kid? Did you know what you wanted to be?
It's kind of funny. I mean, I guess you could say that about anything and everything in my life. It's kind of funny. But did I know what I wanted to be? Yeah, of course. I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I wanted to make cartoons and movies because I really like cartoons and movies, and I had a feeling that computers would be the route to do that because I saw this ad for some computer. I couldn't tell you which one because I couldn't read English. I was back in Israel, and it had like the the chrome sphere rolling over a checkered floor. And I was like, that's so cool. And plus, I really liked video games, even though obviously they were absolutely pathetic compared to what we have nowadays. And that was a computer. So, and my dad kind of always loved computers, and so I got into computers at an early age. I was building them from scratch by sixth grade. But when we came here, I wanted to make cartoons and video games and that kind of stuff, and that was the route I was pushing. I was trying to learn on my own, with books and trial and error, animation. It wasn't until the 386 computer that you could actually do 3D at home. Actually, you need a math coprocessor. My dad wouldn't lend me the $40 to get one. So when I got my 486 computer, that's when I got into a little bit of 3D. Kind of spent all my money on it. And I went through the process. I mean, I learned. I was actually a demo artist for a while. I was the guy that made these like $20,000 programs look easy. Then I was a demo artist for some video stuff that made the $400,000 program look easy. And then I got into photography, and I ran a print shop. And
have you ever had a job, like a typical what somebody would call a job, 9 to 5?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I had like 4 jobs at once. As soon as I got a job, because I wanted money, and my parents kind of figured, oh, he must be responsible, and they left me alone. And irresponsible, I don't think that just because someone works, a lot means they're responsible. Who can close up a movie theater, right? Either like high school dropouts or college students, and then me. And so we'd be like binge drinking every day until like 4 a.m. I would be sleeping through school because of this. And my teachers, I'm oddly smart, so my teachers couldn't stump me by just trying to wake me up and asking me what they were just talking about, because I'd answer that correctly. But yeah, I worked at a clothes store, I worked at a food place, I worked at the movie theater the most. My parents loved that because they got free tickets to the movies. And let's see, then in 1997 I was working at CompUSA, and that was specifically just so I could 1996 to 1997, so a little less than a year. I was working there because I could get cost on computer parts, because I was building my own computers, and I wanted something that would be strong, that could run, video and 3D and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember going with my grandfather to CompUSA, I think, actually, to pick up like different parts, and he built this big, massive computer way back when I was young and computers were fairly new. So where was your head at in like whenever you were nearing high school? Did you have plans for college or?
Oh no, man! I was lazy. I know, insert some kind of expletive here. I just wanted to watch TV and not do much. I wasn't into sports. I didn't hang out all that much. Go to my buddy's house, play Nintendo, Sega, whatever. I went to college for a year because you're supposed to go, and I was like, this is not my jam. I was not happy. I mean, I learned to do a 1.5-minute keg stand, so there's that. But yeah, man, I was teaching myself, so I was going to all these classes, but I wasn't learning anything because you're just learning prerequisites, and who cares what year the War of 1812 was, right? And yeah, I mean, it was an experience, sure, but. And I definitely like experiences, but I still have nightmares every once in a while, that there's that final and I can't remember how to get to class, and all that. But yeah, I was teaching myself stuff, and then I dropped out of the University of Florida, and then I went to the Art Institute. And I'll tell that story real quick because that was a life changer.
Yeah.
I think that's the point where I became kind of motivated and responsible to a degree. I was going to University of Florida. I was just attending classes on occasion. I was doing my thing. State school, public school, so there were discounts. My folks were pitching in. So whatever. Then I was going for computer science because I figured, computer animation, computer science, they both have the word computer in them. That makes sense. And I found out that actually to do computer animation, you had to go into the fine arts program, and they had this class called Warp that you had to take. I don't remember what it stood for, but it was like 13 credits. I mean, they owned you. You were there Monday, Wednesday, Friday for like 6 hours, plus lectures on Tuesday. They recommended you not take any other classes while you're taking this thing. And then they had, while we were taking that, so they're like, all right, well, the class is almost done. Now we're going to show you, what, now you can move into which niche of the art programs you want to go to. And when they showed what their version of computer animation was, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. By the way, am I allowed to use expletives? I'm being on your show?
Yeah, if you feel the need.
Yeah, I mean, I already blocked that last one from my mind, but I was noticing. So yeah, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me! Like, oh my god, I'm already like light years ahead of this. And so I called my brother. I'm like, hey, what do I tell mom and dad? Because I'm dropping out. And he's like, how about mom, dad? I'm dropping out. I said, all right. So I called them up. Since I'd like pseudo wrecked my car, they came up, drove up and towed my car and helped bring me back. They weren't thrilled about it, but they said, hey, all right, well, you're on your own now, and I was like, no, but I want to go to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale because they actually teach 3D animation, which is what I've been wanting to do. And they're like, well, we were pitching into your education before and you just dropped out, so why should we believe that that's not what you're going to do now? So if you want to go, you pay for it. And now I was going not because I was supposed to, but because I wanted to, and thus I was working my ass off, and I was also getting good grades, and I led the digital arts research tools. I had my own research team. I had my own lab on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to midnight. I'd bring in my big-ass computer that I'd built, and I'd work on my stuff, and anyone that had any computer or software-related issue, whatever class it was that you were having trouble with, whether it was Photoshop, 3D Studio, whatever, I'd be there to solve your problems. So yeah, that was a big turning point in my life, is when I stopped having things just handed to me and I had to battle for it because I wanted it, so I had to work for it. Very
cool. So you go to the Art Institute. What happens after that? Where do you go from there?
I was there for about a year and a half, maybe a year. I was actually teaching a lot of their classes. I was substitute teaching, and I was doing, like I said, a lot of stuff because I, really knew all this stuff, and they wouldn't let me test out of classes that I could easily, and actually was teaching a lot of time, and I got kind of upset at that. And then they told me, okay, we're going to give you a credit for those classes. And then they changed department chairs and told me, oh no, that's against our policy, so sorry. And it's an expensive school, so I was like, all right, well, screw you. I don't need you. I'll go do this stuff on my own. Already feels like I have been. And went to California, there was a place that was teaching Softimage 3D, which is I'm not sure how much it's used these days. I'm sure it's still pretty badass, but at the time it was like the leading 3D software. It's what they used to do the effects in Jurassic Park, Casper, and like countless other movies. And I took a shorter course there. Because I was pretty advanced, I was also teaching there. I was assisting the teachers, and then they recommended me to when some people would call and say, hey, do you have any teachers that can teach off-site, for someone who doesn't have the schedule availability to actually take your courses? Then some asshole in South Florida had messed with my credit cards and had to fly down back to South Florida to deal with that disaster. And then, I don't know, I met a friend that there was a guy I'd met while I was working at CompUSA. He ran a studio that actually had a license of Softimage. And, nowadays you hear, oh, someone's got a license of this or that. It's not that big of a deal. Back in 1997, 98, that was like a huge deal because you needed, the equivalent of a supercomputer. You need like really expensive hardware in order to run this stuff, and the software itself cost like 23 grand. So I met this guy and I was like, oh, I'm actually going to California to learn this. And he said, oh, call me when you get back. So I got back and I call him up. I got a gig there. It wasn't anything steady. It was more like, well, when we have something 3D, you can have the hours for it. Otherwise, you can hang out and mess around on the equipment, which is what I did. I spent all day, all night there. I was basically living out of there because I just wanted to keep getting better. And then an opportunity came up to be a demo artist. Again, meaning the guy that makes the really expensive software look easy so that people spend the lots of money on it. So I moved down to South Beach, and that was fun, and then what happened? Then the company I was working for had kind of gone under, and so I was doing freelance work. Then I did move back in to my folks' place and was just doing like freelance and when I could find it, nothing crazy. I was doing like web design, and that was a skill that I'd picked up in order to try and promote my 3D, but I found out more people needed websites than needed me to do 3D for them. And then I got a gig at my buddy Tim. His buddy Brett, Brett's dad had passed away, and they had 40 years worth of storage that they needed moved. And back then I was into bodybuilding and working out all the time, so I was like, oh yeah, get paid to lift stuff? Absolutely. And Brett also had a photo studio and a print shop, and so Tim had suggested I ask the girls who were working there if they needed any help with graphics because I'm qualified. I got that gig. I ran the print shop, and that was actually a blast. That was more fun than work. I had my own air mattress over there. Their engineer for their web business. It was One Model Place, the world's largest online community for models and photographer. So their IT guy, it was my best bud. So we'd be playing Frisbee, and we used the walls of the place as like our own private drive-in theater. And I was getting to walk in on set I was getting to help out a little bit on like Playboy shoots, and the boss had a camera and was spending all his money on like great lenses and lights, and so Tim had suggested I get the crappier version of the camera, the Canon Digital Rebel, because it could use the same lenses that Brett's camera had. I was like, okay. And Brett lent me the lenses, and that's when I realized, oh man, I'm really good at this stuff. I was really good at photography from the get-go. I think a lot of the principles that you need to master for photography I'd learned in 3D, because you can use in 3D any kind of lens that you want because it's virtual. There's no real lens. And so I used imaginary ones and real ones. And, I got a feel for composition. I got a feel for lighting and all that stuff. So when I got into photography, I already knew all this stuff, and I had fun. I'd already learned a lot of Photoshop stuff in order to make my 3D better. I'd learned video editing in order to fix my 3D and do that kind of stuff, because again, back then you needed some serious computing power in order to do it. So if you made a mistake, you could fix it in video compositing or editing, then that saved you like hours or days. So all these different skills that came about because I was trying to do the things that I wanted to do since I was a little kid had actually, come in really useful. And so I was working at the studio. I got there was one day when I just pulled a 72-hour shift for them. I did some animations for a trade show they were going to go do, and no one else could do them. And I was so tired, I went to sleep in the server room. I couldn't even drive home, and the server room is a perfect place to sleep because it's pitch black. You got the servers making ambient noise for you, so you can't hear anything. And I passed out on the floor behind the servers, and my buddy Kenny is kicking my leg, kind of like you do a dead animal to see if it's still alive. And he's like, "Hey," I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You want to go fly a helicopter?" I'm like, "Yeah. Sure, man. How long do I get? When should I set my alarm for?" He's like, no, we gotta go now. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in." And I go to leave, and this girl who thought she was my manager is like, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to fly a helicopter." And she's like, "No, you're not. There's new comp cards and new business cards that just came in." I'm like, "Well, tough. I just worked 72 hours. I noticed that you got to go home at regular times and take showers and sleep." And I'm like, "Fuck that. I'm out of here." Those comp cards and business cards are gonna be here when I get back. And you got a problem, take it up with Brett. Take it up with the owner, because he was my buddy, and plus he had conflict and confrontation. So I knew he wouldn't care. And I take off, had a blast. Kenny actually let me fly the helicopter. He put it down in the middle of the Everglades, and I was like, "All right, here's what you do." And I was like, "Oh, it was an insanely cool experience." And I was like, "All right, it reminded me that I'm an entrepreneur." Going back to your "did I have any jobs" question. So 2004 to 2005 and a half. So for about a little bit over a year, I had that job running the print shop and all that stuff. But that day I was like, all right, I'm not big on asking permission, especially to do epic things. And that's
sort of the line in the sand. Okay, I'm making a decision at this point.
Okay. The guys from Google said if you get offered a ticket to go fly on a rocket ship, you don't ask, "Oh, well, which seat do I got?"
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm being handed cool stuff. I don't want to ask permission. I want to run with it. And so I gave my 2-month notice. I know most people do 2 weeks, but I went and found a replacement. I trained him. I kept coming in after that, and just to check up on him. So I left on very good terms. That's when I got the apartment in Fort Lauderdale, and I was doing photography and web design, and I got a little sign that I was on the right path, because a couple days before my very last day, I got a check for $1,000 that I forgot that I even entered in the Pets and Pals, the Humane Association's Pets and Pals photo contest. So it was like, wow, I just got $1,000 for being a photographer, and some press. Cool. I left. That was fun. I was shooting mostly like lingerie models and crazy parties and all this kind of stuff. And then, yeah, then
So
we get to where the story started. Lisa ran up and went couch surfing.
yeah, so you couch surf for a little while, and I remember the day, and this is what I really want to have you dive into for the remainder of the interview. But I remember when you posted on Facebook I believe, your first piece of art, and the main lesson that I really want listeners to take away from this is consistency. Because I asked you before we hit record, and you said as of today you've created a new piece of art every day for 1,367 days in a row. And I've seen a lot of those pieces of art, and they're not just all paintings. There's lots of different kind of art. So I want to first of all talk. I mean, why? Like, why? What made you decide to do that? Was that the original goal, or did that something that just sort of came on as time went by? And then I want to dig into like how you actually did that.
Okay. That was never a goal. I never thought of artist as a career. Like growing up, I was always creative. I was always doodling and all that kind of stuff. My mom tells me the story to this day about how she'd visit the parent-teacher conference and tell her how, oh, I'm smart. I'm always raising my hand, getting the questions right, and participate. And they thought I was always taking notes. But then when they finally checked my notebook, they saw that there was not a single word written down. I'd just been doodling the whole year, things like that. I didn't have discipline or willpower as a kid. Like I said, I was a little fat and lazy and all that kind of stuff. And so I would buy these books on how to blah, 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 insert, artistic method here. But I didn't actually read the books because I don't know, was lazy or whatever. And so, for all your listeners, I'll tell you, buying the books, buying the courses doesn't help you unless you actually read them, take action, and put them to good use. So that's a good lesson right there. But no, man, never thought of an artist. That was just nothing that I heard of as a kid. You don't hear of artists that make money or, oh, you should grow up and be an artist or anything like that. I was, people figured I'd probably be, I don't know, some kind of a writer, author, who knows. I wanted to make cartoons. And funny enough, all that 3D animation stuff kind of came back because now I'm doing 3D. You've seen over the last week I've been generating, or last couple of weeks I've been doing jewelry. And so that's being generated in 3D. But yeah, I was always doing when I got the job at CompUSA. I built myself a pretty badass computer, and I got myself a tablet, and I was painting on the computer just occasionally and just for fun. I wasn't trying to sell them. I was doing it for the fun of it. And I was dating this girl in 2000. And she saw my work, and then I did kind of like a little tribute to her. And she's like, "Oh my God, your stuff's really good. Oh, you're so good." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Whatever. I didn't take it seriously because I figured, oh, she's just dating me. So, it's kind of like when parents give you compliments on your macaroni art and hang it on the fridge. Oh, it's so good. But, that's what they're supposed to do. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's like, no, you don't understand. You got to do an art show. Like, my mom wants to meet you. She works with all these galleries. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I meet her mom. Her mom's crazy about my art, too. She's like, yeah, you got to do an art show. Well, I didn't know back then what I know now about research, about how to research a niche or an event or anything like that. And so I just put the word out that I'm looking for an art show, and someone came back to me and said, hey, check this thing out. There's an art show coming up. Well, it wasn't even really an art show. And when I said, I didn't know then what I know now about researching, it was just one of those city walk things, that art walks, whatever you call it, that every city has, like third Thursday, first Friday, whatever, one of those kind of things. And I went through all this trouble I got my art printed and laminated and mounted, and I borrowed my buddy's trade show booth, which was like ginormous, and I actually had to get a moving truck to bring it there. And I show up, and there's like me with all that, and a couple other people with like these teeny tiny, crappy fold up tables, and maybe 20 or 30 people walk by the whole night. It wasn't like a big deal or anything. And since none of those 20 to 30 people had bought anything, I was like, well, I guess I failed. I guess I'm not an artist. And that's another great lesson right there that I wanted to kind of highlight, because so many of us will try something once, will go, well, that didn't work. Guess that's not my thing. You kind of need to get some scars, get some miles under your belt before you actually get good at anything. I mean, what's the last thing that you're really good at right from the get-go, professional grade? Like, probably nothing, except for maybe pooping your pants as a kid, but you don't get paid for that. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not an artist, and I stopped doing art. I was still doing photography, I was still doing Photoshop, I'd still dabble with stuff, but I wasn't painting or drawing or anything.
So when did the streak start?
Well,
and how? Tell that story.
10 years later, I was couch surfing. I was going to Maui. My buddy was like, hey, my girlfriend needs a website, and you're working on your WordPress course. I know you always get distracted, so you come to Maui, you're on an island, you'll have less distractions, and we'll cover your ticket if you do her website. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. So they fly me out there. We're having a good old time, and he keeps telling me how he can't wait to take me to the galleries in Lahaina. Now, I am thinking, oh, God, no, I don't want to go, because I figured it was going to be boring and filled with snooty people and all that, and I have no idea where I got this idea in my head. Now, in hindsight, I'm guessing it was, well, if I didn't sell any art, then all art has to suck, or something like that. And anyways, we don't go, and then like 2 days before we got to go back to the mainland, I was there for like 2.5 months. 2 days before we got to go back, he's like, oh no, I never took you to the galleries. And I'm like, oh, that's okay, I don't mind, don't worry about it, I had a good time. He's like, no, we'll go tomorrow. So the day before we got to leave, he takes me there, and you know what? It was not boring. I mean, it was for my buddy, because he had to wait up on me too, because I had to look at like every single art piece. And by the fourth or fifth gallery, because it's like a street where just you have gallery after gallery after gallery. By the fourth or fifth gallery, I just had this like feeling of heartbreak, like, oh my God, why am I not doing this stuff? And I knew I could do stuff as good, if not better, than most of the pieces there. Maybe not at that moment, but later on. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to start doing a drawing every day. We'll get back to the mainland, and I started doing a drawing every day, and that lasted about 2 weeks. And then, like so many things, it just kind of like flaked off and, went back about life with all its distractions. But something had changed. I finished my WordPress course through accountability, public accountability worked. I had I sold a bunch of copies of it before the course was complete. So those people I was accountable to them. And I had my friend Kate Buck Jr. She was holding me accountable. And so I finished this thing, which actually required some discipline. I actually had to, keep going, not just, this is boring now, I'm going to quit. And so that was a life changer when I put that course out. And it was kind of funny because I released like a course that sold to like thousands of people. I created and marketed it while I was basically homeless, while I was couch surfing. And then I settled down in Austin because the course got so big that I actually needed to be stationary and, take care of my clients and keep improving the course and so on. And I went to this thing in Chicago called Life Book, where you sit down for a couple of days and you try to figure out what you want in your life, what you don't want in your life. They break it down by like 9 different categories, and there's no internet and Wi-Fi. It's just you in this room, and they take you through, you dream up your perfect life. And, I haven't really opened my life book since. That was in April 2012. But the one thing I do remember from it was that it was, what do you want, what don't you want? And I remember that feeling of heartbreak from Maui. And I was like, I don't want that in my life. And so what are you going to do about it? Like, what's your strategy? And I remembered accountability worked really well for me. And so I just said, well, I'm just going to post on Facebook that I'm going to do a drawing every day. And somewhere out there is some asshole just waiting to go, ha ha, I knew you couldn't do it. And so, yeah, those poor assholes are still waiting. I'm guessing they probably got bored of waiting, because now, I'm a little past the middle of my 4th year of doing this every single day. Drawing turned to painting, turned to sculpting, and, everything else in between. And there's one other short story that I want to tie in with that, because it's really important. It's why I haven't stopped. And I was doing when I was, 3 years ago, I'd already started this stuff, but I was 5 months away from turning 36. I'm 39 now. And so I was 5 months away from turning 36. And I was like, I've never had 6-pack abs. I would like to have 6-pack abs. And I announced that that's my goal by my birthday. Again, public accountability. And every week I would post a picture facing forward and sideways of me in like shorts or underwear or something like that. And you definitely, when you're posting, basically like almost nude pictures of yourself to like thousands of people, you definitely hope that they're gonna improve each week. Otherwise, you'll probably hear about it or look like an ass. And I actually reached my goal. I had abs for the first time in my life. I was shredded. I couldn't believe it. And I measured whether I reached my goal, but on my birthday, December 16th, when I lifted my shirt, could you actually see, the little square definition around the abs? And you could. And I was like, sweet. And so I used public accountability to get my abs. But then I reached my goal, and I called up some friends and said, great, let's go out for cake and margaritas. And then the next day, I was like, well, I don't need to work out today. I earned it, take the day off. And I was like, well, you know what? It's a weekend. It's my birthday. I mean, I earned it. And so a day turned into a weekend, turned into a week, into a month, turned into 2 years. And then I was like, oh, damn, I'm fat. And, now I'm working out again, and I'm getting okay shape right now. But the fact was that here was something that I'd spent basically every single day for 5 months doing. I built a result that got me, public recognition and all that stuff. And then I got lazy one day and I stopped. And then, one day turned into 2 years. And so with my art, I'm not even taking that one day. I am, because I'm not going to risk that one day is going to turn into a weekend and so on. There was a night where I was dating. I'd started dating this girl, and I was over her place for the first time, and we did our thing. And usually after you do your thing, you kind of fall asleep, and I fall asleep, and then I don't know, it's like 1 a.m. She's got to be at work. She's got to get up for work at 6. And all of a sudden I get up. I'm like, oh no! And she darts out of bed like, what? Because you don't really have someone screaming like, "Oh no!" out of the blue. There's usually something wrong, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't do my art today," and I run naked into the other room, get my laptop, and start doing my art. And I finished about half an hour before she had to get up. She, of course, had stayed up to watch. But so, I've blown off friends and family. I've blown off sleep. Like, I will, I'm not missing out on creating my daily art. Now, after all this time that I've been doing it, I have much better control. So if I really need to be somewhere and there's not enough time for sleep and all that, I don't sleep much. Usually I get between 2 and 4 hours of sleep, sometimes less, but I can take naps during the day if I have to. But yeah, I can. So usually I want to spend a really, really long time doing my art, but if I don't have that, I can create something that's amazing in 10, 20, 30 minutes. I usually choose to spend, between 8, 14 hours, whatever. But because I'm trying to learn new things, I'm trying to challenge myself, I'm trying to learn new technique and all that. But yeah, if I absolutely have no time and, it's already, the sun's coming up and I spent the whole night learning the technique and now I want to actually implement it, I only have an hour left. I can create something. People have no clue how long a piece takes me, and I leverage technology. If I was painting all this stuff in oil paints, I highly doubt I could get a lot of the looks that I do within, with such a short period. So I guess another good lesson there would be leverage technology. Right? I mean, here we are recording a call. We're not dialing in. We're not having to drive across the country to hang out with each other at the same studio, right? But back in the day, that's what you had to do if you wanted to make a recording together. And so, yeah, leverage technology, man. Use an autoresponder rather than having to call every single person or send out a billion postcards. And we truly live in amazing times these days.
Yeah. So you've been on this streak. How do you get inspiration for your pieces? Where do the ideas come from?
Just a great thing about when you make a ritual, when it's a lot of I know a lot about creativity. I mean, I always have. I get invited to a lot of masterminds because I always come up with the strange marketing and business solutions that other people wouldn't think of and all that stuff. And the thing that really surprises a lot of people, one of the greatest ways to channel, to bring in creativity, is to throw a bunch of rules at yourself. So it's not about having a ton of freedom. It's about actually creating some kind of rule of discipline. For example, having a limited amount of time or having a limited amount of materials. You can only use 3 colors for this or that. So when you're doing it every single day, I don't think that you need inspiration. At least I don't. If I start moving the brush, so to speak, whether I'm working on paints, clay, a lot of times I start without an idea. I just start. So there's this thing called the Rorschach test. Yeah, everyone's seen it. They might not know the name of it, but it's basically the ink blot test. A psychiatrist or whatever will show it to you and will ask you, what do you see here? What do you see here? And it's just supposed to show that you're crazy and deranged or whatever. I don't know. But or as kids, we all played that. Oh, that cloud looks like a blank. That cloud looks like a blank. It's the same kind of thing. I'll start something and I'll be like, oh, well, that kind of looks like this or that. And then I'll add detail to create that thing. Or I might just start, well, I could get better at blank, so I'm going to make one of those. I often try to start on, like a human face. I'll start sculpting a face, and then I'll be like, oh, and I'll stretch it out. I'll do my thing, and then I'm like, well, this is taking on. So a lot of times, I don't even have an idea. I'm
kind of starting, right?
I just start, and then I kind of channel. I kind of channel it. Like, these things kind of create themselves sometimes.
That's interesting. I do a piece of content a day, and I batch process a lot. So I'm getting ahead so I don't put myself in a situation where I do drop the ball even that one time. And I found the same thing whenever, I sit down, sometimes just starting to write, just starting somewhere, because you get in this like sort of analysis paralysis thing where, you overthink it, and just starting for me, sometimes I'll start with an idea and it turns into something totally different. But regardless, I start, and that sort of gets the wheel spinning, and something comes out of it. So
yeah. And if I don't have an idea, I'm like, oh damn, I need to do something, and I don't feel like just moving the brush around and seeing what comes up. I can always practice drawing people, and then kind of see what comes out of that. And then of course there's days where there's no shortage of ideas. Like David Bowie recently died, and so I'm a fan of David Bowie as he's changed our culture around the world, both music, film, and everything else. And I was pretty bummed out. I like David Bowie's music and everything else, so I did a tribute to David, and that one went like pseudo viral. Everyone,
I saw that. It was great,
and I sold that one. I mean, I had like my inbox was filled with like, dude, can I buy that? Can I buy that? And if I spent more time, looking at what's important to the world, I'm sure I could make that my model, or I create paintings and this and that. About 3 weeks ago, I got into jewelry design, so now a lot of times I'll just try to make a ring or a pendant or something like that. So that's got its own sets of limitations of size and amount of material, and what will actually be comfortable to wear. And but one of the things that I know about myself, so I recommend that everyone know a lot about themselves. Take all the profiles that you can, the Colby Index, the Strength Finder 2.0, personal DNA, ask around what other ones there are, and take them all, because they each, when I'm in a print shop, when you have an image that you're going to print, there's what's called the DPI, dots per inch, and the way that the printers work, and generally they lay down, little dots in different colors. On your screen, it's RGB, it's red, green, and blue. On paper, it's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And the more dots there are, the finer the image is. So when you're looking at a photograph, a magazine, that's 300 DPI, that's 300 dots per inch. And that means that it's not going to look like a whole bunch of dots, it's going to actually look like that image. For your monitor or cell phone, a lot of times you're seeing 72 DPI. But if you take a 72 DPI image and you try to print it, full page for print, it's generally going to look blurry or pixelated because it just doesn't have enough data. So I think of having your knowledge of yourself as those little dots. You take one test, you're like, oh, I'm an ENTP on the Myers-Briggs test. Cool. Well, that's one dot. Now you go, well, I'm a Sagittarius, and, according to astrology, I'm supposed to do blah, blah, blah. Well, cool, that's another dot. And the more of these you have, the more tests and profiles you have, the better you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, the better you know how to communicate those to other people. You can hand them like a little manual of how to work with you. And just knowing yourself is just a really powerful tool. I know that I get bored very easily. I know that that accountability is one of the things that works really well for me. I know that I thrive on variety. So if I had to just paint, you know, take naked women. I paint occasional naked women, and people are like, oh, wow, you're so lucky you get to do this. Sure, cool, whatever. If I had to do it every single day, I would get bored. That's why I got bored when I was running the print shop. That's why I didn't like working at CompUSA. Well, lots of reasons. But if I have to do the same thing every day, I get bored. And art, even if I'm doing a painting every day, you've seen my art. You never know what I'm gonna make. So the subject may be different, the medium may be different, the technique may be different, the color scheme may be different. Like, you flip through these thousands of images, and you're like, I can't believe these are by the same person. And the same thing with the jewelry now. Now I'm, it's a little more of a challenge because it's a little more. Just there's quote unquote only so much you can do with a ring, but every time I post a ring, people are like, dude, can I buy it? Because, my stuff's different. I'm not out there looking for inspiration, like what are other people selling. I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to make a ring. What am I going to do today? And I'm just, trying stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. So you've done this content, you've created new art every single day, and even though it's not the same thing, some people may look at that as, a little bit scattered, not sticking with one, or see that as a bad thing, rather. But the fact that you're doing it daily, I want to talk about, like, what has that done for you so far? What has that opened up, and what opportunities? Like, obviously that's a good thing. You've got that as a priority, something, you're not going to miss a day without doing your art. So what's the benefit of that? Like, somebody just staying consistent and sticking with doing something consistently. What could, what's the
I would say it's the most valuable thing that you could do. I mean, again, earlier I mentioned that I did that art show and I didn't succeed, and I gave up and totally quit this thing that actually, I was passionate about, that I've always enjoyed, like creating art in general. And, thankfully I found something that reminded me of that. And so I've stuck with it since, and I've defended it fiercely so that I don't lose it ever again. But, my dad always likes to remind me, that, I started doing websites in 1996, 1997. Imagine if I'd stuck with it, and I just, I would have like a multi-million-dollar a year company. And it's true, I mean, I got my fitness by staying consistent with that. If you stay consistent with something, that's about the only way you can achieve greatness with it. And it doesn't matter what that is, right? Take copywriting, take your business as a thing. Yeah, if you show up and you just do it, you're like, okay, I did this, I answered my emails today. No, like, keep learning. I'm constantly, like almost daily, learning new techniques to keep improving my art and my craft. And so that's one thing. Keep learning, keep moving forward. Consistency. Yeah, don't skip days. Okay, fine. You want to take weekends off? That's your deal. I'm not gonna call you a bad person or anything, but definitely stick with it. And don't do just the minimum, like, oh, I showed up. Like, no, like, try to, strive for mastery, and that's when you get, well, first of all, you can sell stuff for a lot more money. Second of all, you're much better at doing that. I look at some of my pieces and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I created that. By staying consistent, I've built up a brand. I got people who log on to Facebook for nothing else just to see, what did I post today?
Very cool. Very cool. So we're getting to the end of the show. I want to talk about how listeners or viewers of the show can actually find your work, see some pictures of your work, and this show is created in every day has an audio, video, and text format. So I'd love it if you could send me over a few pieces of your art, pictures, and I can put them in the video. That way people can actually get a nice visual as they're actually listening to this and go through it and kind of cycle through some of your art. And that way they can see it, but also how do they find you? Where can they learn more about you?
I'm definitely easy to find on Facebook, facebook.com/ori.bengal. That's ORI.BENGAL. As we've mentioned, I post new art every single day, and I also post some science and humor and occasional marketing wisdom, and who knows what other miscellaneous trouble I get into. Then there's, I have a couple websites, theartofori.com and oribengal.com. Those are constantly being constructed, deconstructed, as haven't been as consistent with the marketing of my art. And I've done so many different things, from public speaking to having a WordPress course to video editing, consulting, and like a million other things. So I keep reinventing what my website is. Now that I know that this art thing is not a fluke, this is like my passion, my obsession, my addiction, and so now I'm changing the sites towards that. But if you go to oribengal.com/year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, and those are all separate URLs, not one. So oribengal.com/year 1, oribengal.com/year 2, and so on. That will take you to the corresponding Facebook album that has all the art from that particular year. So you can actually see the evolution of my art over the last 4 years. Like I said, we're in the middle of the 4th year. I would say for the art, help yourself. Just go to those URLs, Justin, and pick your favorites. There's I don't really have any favorites. I just like creating them. Heck, I don't even bother naming them usually. I just ask people online, hey, what should I name this one? Facebook is the best place to find, engage, and interact with me. I'm very responsive on there. And
awesome. Well, Ori, man, I appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. I thank you so much. Mad respect for, as of now, 1,367 days of consistency. Seriously, that's impressive. So thank you so much for your time. And any final words before we leave? And if there's a pun that you can pull from this show, throw that out. If not, we'll wrap it up and end the call.
All right, last piece of wisdom. As I just kind of said, now that I've discovered that art is my thing and art is my addiction, I find it difficult even to do anything else. And it's my obsession. Like having to stop and build a website for a client or something like that. I'll go, oh, all right, And so I'm actually working this year. It's going to be where I'm doing nothing but art. My goal is by April 23rd, because that's going to be the start of my 5th year of daily art. And I defend my art now fiercely. I don't care about individual pieces, not that I stand up for them, but I defend me doing the daily art. If someone tries to get in the way of that, they're they're going to have some issues. And so the point is, discover what it is that you're that passionate about. It took me 20 something years, or I don't know, 4 years ago, I'm 39 now. So yeah, it took me till I was like 35 years old, to discover what my passion is. And I think that a lot of people either never find theirs, or they might find it but never really do anything about it. And I think that's where true happiness comes in pursuing our passion and pursuing mastery. And whatever else is going on in my life, at least I get to do my art, and I'm very happy about that. So, everyone tells you about business, oh, do this, do that. I say discover what your passion is and defend it with ferocity.
I would not disagree with any of that. All good stuff, Ori. I appreciate it. And I know the listeners will as well. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd like to give a special shout out and thanks again to Ori Bengal for coming on the show and giving such amazing value. Be sure and tune in later this week, because Brenda and I will be breaking down this interview question by question, giving you our own personal takeaways and insights. We sincerely hope that you have enjoyed today's episode. If you did, we would love it if you would share the Results 513 show with someone. And be sure and subscribe on iTunes by going to results513.com/iTunes, or if Stitcher's more your thing, you could subscribe there, results513.com/Stitcher. If you would like to get the full experience of today's episode, the notes, the videos, the links, everything, head on over to results513.com/102. Also, if you have not done so yet, do yourself a favor, run over to results513.com/show, download your free gift, the 15 must-have tools to be productive in your business. If you're a high performer, this is perfect for you. So go download it, read it, apply it, and start winning. We'll catch you in the next episode.